joining us today. This is our first episode of a new series that we're starting on YouTube and also as an audio podcast called HF Conversations. And so what we want to do is really just have conversations about things that happen on the weekends, other topics in our church. We're going to talk with different staff members and leadership, just about life and culture and theology and all kinds of good stuff. So this is episode 1, and my name's James. I'm the online director here, and I'm joined by my boss, Tim Lemons, who's the
communications pastor.
That's right.
Yep. So I help with website, social media, communications for the church.
And then also our lead pastor, Alan Jessee.
Yeah.
So Alan, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, which I actually really work for both these guys. So
That's not true. But, so we're excited to have a conversation today. What we want to do is talk about the sermon from last week that Alan spoke on. It's actually the last one in our Reboot series, and it's kind of about rebooting your job, your vocation. And so, Alan, just take a couple minutes and walk us through just kind of some of the big takeaways from that.
sure, honestly, what I was trying to do is sort of be a voice with all the different people who asked me to pray for them on their job. And they were either unhappy, they needed a job, they needed something to change within their work. And all of us know how important that is because we spend so much of our time, third of our life, on our job. So the whole idea was to give people some steps to think about where they are and possibly to reboot at the start of a new year their vocation.
Yeah, that's cool. So if you have not watched that message, it's week 4 of Reboot. You can go to hf.church and watch that or download the podcast. And you listed like 7 or 8 really great practical steps of ways people can take to reboot their vocation.
Right.
But Tim actually has a quick story about this personally, right? So how did you experience this in your life?
Yeah, so I thought one of your greatest things at the end was you talked about people want to change, and so I think we always default to, well, I'm going to change my job because it sucks and I hate it and stuff like that.
Not this job.
No, not this job. Yeah, obviously not talking about this job. No, I love my job. But no, I was working at a place before I came here, and I was kind of in between ministry, and I had a calling to ministry, and I knew I was supposed to be in ministry, but I was working at this place, and I was really kind of miserable, and I just was like, God, I'm supposed to be in ministry, and why is that not happening? And he kind of convicted me, and just through spending time with him daily, he was like, you could have a better attitude at your work, and I've got you in a mission field right now where there's tons of lost people around you, and this is a great opportunity for you, and if you can be faithful in this little thing, then I'll give you more to be faithful in. And so I changed my attitude, and I was able to start talking about God, and people knew I was a Christian, but when I changed my attitude about that, it seemed like people started coming to me more and asking more questions about God, and I was really able to, I feel like, make a really positive impact in that place. And then, 6 months later or so, I actually got the opportunity to come back into ministry. So maybe it was part of me being faithful in that or not, but changing my attitude about where I was at was a game changer.
Okay.
Yeah.
One thing that you talked about in your sermon, was that as you're leading people, how we can lead with love, how we can lead with compassion. And, maybe you're listening to this, you're watching it, and you're like, I don't lead anyone. But the reality is, we are all leading someone in our life, whether it's in a management level, at work or at home, or honestly, because of the internet, you have influence over a lot of people, right? The things that you say, the things that you give life to or death to, it makes a difference. Right. And so, what would you just kind of encourage people, just to sum all that up? What are some ways they can really just lead with love in whatever season they're in?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, James. So I would just say that you're right. Every person is leading in some capacity. A lot of the people who God's brought to Highlands are leading hundreds of employees, which is incredible. And so my challenge to these who had lots of people under them was to take it to a new level and to be a better leader. And, are you treasuring the people you lead? But it's also a challenge to that stay-at-home mom who is crafting kids and the influence that she has and the leadership that she has is incredible as well. And to me, with even possibly higher ranking as these children develop into hopefully people who love Jesus, and what we do in the home is really our greatest leadership model potential. And so I think it's sort of across the board. I think it did, from the emails and the responses I got, seemed to hit a lot of different people and different leadership roles.
Yeah.
And we all, when a leader improves, everybody wins. And I think that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, that's good. So one other thing that you kind of hit on a little bit, and we gave out some cards that kind of had our church and our staff core values on those. And so you mentioned that that you all have spent like the last year and a half developing those. So if someone's listening to this or watching and they're like, man, I would love to have a better work culture. I'd love to have a better staff culture. Just give a few minutes about, and both of you can kind of chime in on this, on kind of the inside of developing those, not even necessarily what they are, but like that process. Like, what did you learn in that process of doing that?
I think just being completely transparent, open, to finally realize where our staff was in reality, okay? Because I'm honestly thinking that most people who are working at Highlands love the opportunity to work. I think most people do love that opportunity.
Yeah.
But how our structure and how we gave voice to anybody on our team definitely needed to be improved. So that was eye-opening for me. And as we went through this whole ordeal of trying to make our culture better, learning from a lot of other people, and a lot from our staff, it was just sort of one of those things that has made me a better leader, and it's made me a better person as well. So I think it was very, very healthy for us. I'm ecstatic about the core values that our staff has decided this is what we want to be known for.
Yeah. So Tim, like you've been here through some of these changes. What can you see as just like some tangible results just from that culture change as it's shifting? Like what are some of those outcomes that we're already experiencing?
Well, I think there's more energy, there's more trust, there's more, I feel like more production, more effectiveness because of those trust and energy and excitement and the vision and the excitement of where we're going as a church. I mean, I've been involved in this church for years and years and years, and I've never been more excited about where we're going. And I would encourage you too, if you are a leader and you can set those core values. One of the things that Alan did, and we were just talking about this the other day, is we were very clear that, hey, we've probably made some mistakes, and you can come to us and we're going to have some meetings. We sat down as a culture team. We created a team of like 5 or 6 of us, and we met with every single employee and said, hey, this is a safe place. You can say anything you want. There's no repercussions to what you're going to say.
Yeah.
And you kind of set the pace of that and the vulnerability of that by saying, hey, we've probably made some mistakes. We messed up. But we're taking that on, and we're going to own that, and we're going to help make a difference in that. And so I think being real and vulnerable is a huge step in that.
Yeah, just sort of follow up. I thought about, should I be on that team or should I not be on that team? By presence, would it be more of a culture builder or culture buster?
Sure.
But after thinking about it, I wanted every person on our staff to know this is so important to me. I'm not going to quit until we get it right. And I realize it's ongoing.
Yeah.
But with the freedom that we gave, people really did share, and it was great. It was really good.
Yeah, I think that one of the reasons that process was so successful is because you were willing to go all the way back to kind of the basic things, right? Like, I think so many times we want to fix what's on top. We just kind of want to triage, like, oh, we got this problem, well, we got this thing, it's an HR problem, it's this, it's that. But it's like, let's get back to the core of like who we are, what we want to be about as a church, as an organization, as a staff, and then we're going to build that. It's like a biblical idea that you build a strong foundation, right? That it's not built on something that's shaky. And so I think so many times, we live in a culture that values like the presentation of something versus like what the substance is. So it wants to look good, but maybe it's like, the basement's, flooded. So, as someone who's been on staff here for almost 7 months now, so I'm like a pretty new staff person, I came in at the end of this kind of experiment that you guys were working through, and I love it. Like, it's been great for me to experience that sort of, transparent honesty, value-giving thing with the staff, that we can have conversations with each other. And so man, it has been such a blessing for me to come into that. So we're doing good.
Yeah.
I can say that as a new insider. And so if you're watching this and you're like, man, I wish my staff was better, maybe you could start with you. You could ask for how you could improve. Lou Giglio said that years ago. He said, if you want your staff to be better, start with you and ask those questions.
Good.
So if your pastor or your boss doesn't want to have feedback, ask for his feedback. Say, hey, Alan, how could we improve this? What do you think? And just open that up for dialogue. And I think it's amazing where you can go when you lead with humility, when you care about those, when you lead with love, right? And that's the whole point of this message, was that as we do all these things to make things better, we really just want to lead with love.
True.
Yeah. So, man, Tim Allen, yeah. Not the Santa Claus, yeah. Thank you guys for being here. This was the first episode of HF Conversations. If you all liked this episode, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, or you can find it on podcast, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, all that stuff. And like we said, each week we're going to have different conversations. And so we also want you to get in on these conversations. So use the hashtag HF Conversations. Be sure to follow Highlands Fellowship on social media, and we would love to engage with you. We'll have Alan back on in a few weeks, and we're going to talk about some relationship stuff and some marriage things. So be back for that, and we'll see you next time for another conversation.